Hey, welcome in, everybody. Before I start playing and doing our thing, let's make sure my sound's working. Everybody can hear me? Cool, cool. So tonight we're moving on to the Dorian scale or the Dorian mode. Let's check that out a little bit. If you open up your Zoom or your expand the text box underneath the video and YouTube you're watching of me, you'll see the curriculum link there. Open that up and it'll be 2 pages. This week we got 2 for the Dorian. We're going to work on page 1 with the neck diagrams today. And then next week, week 2 of the Dorian, we'll work on the second page. And we're going to do so in the same manner we did the last 2 weeks on the first mode, Ionian. There we go. Okay, cool. Let me close this. All right, everybody. So Scoopy Stap. Cool, cool. Good to see you here. I don't recognize your name, so it's good to have a new one, Scooby. Cool, cool. Hello, Roland. Cool, cool. All right, cool. What's Scooby saying here? Dorian has been the one scale that I've tinkered with but not perfected. Not sure of the notes that should be played within the positions of the scale. Looking forward to this lesson. Cool. All right, Scooby, hanging tight. We'll talk about all that stuff. And Roland, hello, buddy. Okay, cool, cool. And Steve, all right. Danny, cool. Some familiar names. Russ, chilling in Vegas. All right. If he's Russ is saying, just curious if you like this cage system. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Teach that to my students, and I've done some courses on that, or I've done a course on that with another company online, not Guitar Tricks, but anyway, and we've got a ton of stuff on Guitar Tricks on the cage system. In fact, Russ, in our diagrams we're doing, the first pattern I'm giving everybody for the particular mode we're working on is using one of the cage patterns. The second pattern is not the cage system, but it's a 3-note per string layout of the same mode, the same notes. Just looks a little different shape or different geometry on the fretboard. So there you go. Hang tight, Russ. We'll be talking about that caged in a little bit in 1 sec. In fact, Russ, think about this. If you're familiar with the cage system, that first pattern up there, which cage pattern would that be? Think about that for a minute. All right, Terry, what's happening? Bob, all right. Cool, cool. All right, Jim, all right. Richard, cool. And then Zach, cool. Leslie, watching from Vancouver Island, all right, up in Canada, north of our border. Ramon's saying, hello from Puerto Rico. What's up? Good tidings. Yeah, hello. All things are going good. Oh, Vinny. All right. Right on, Vinny. You rock too, buddy. Dynamite guitar player there. I'm sure you know all about the modes, Vinny, because I know you're a teacher and a superb player too, so I'm sure you're very familiar with them. King 50s, Northern Nevada. What's happening? Second Chance. All right, Marianne's here. Cool. No gig tonight, Marianne, in the Second Chance band. Cool, cool. All right. And then Zane. All right. Cool. And Leslie. All right. Cool. Glad you like it, Leslie. All right. So, folks, let's open up. Now, I'm going to ask everybody to see if you can take a look at the first pattern we did last week, the Ionian scale pattern, because all the rest of the modes we're going to look at, we're always going to compare them to the shape of these 2 patterns I gave you for the Ionian, because that's sort of how you want to think about your mode patterns, is what's different about them compared to the major scale. And that'll give you a good understanding about what makes that mode tick, what makes that mode sound like it does, what gives it its unique color, its unique flavor, and why certain guitar players like to use, and not just guitar players, but any musician for that matter that uses modes, why they like certain modes or why they choose certain modes. Okay, some of them have a dark, dark sound, kind of Middle Eastern sort of sounding, like Phrygian, kind of exotic. Others of them sound really bright and happy, like Lydian and Ionian, for instance. Some of them sound a little bit happy, but a little bit dark, like Mixolydian. And then Dorian, too, is one of those scales that sounds slightly on the dark side, but it's also a little bit in the happier side, too, of the minors. So anyway, let's take a look at the pattern number 1. Let's go through that for a sec, and then we're going to talk about what I have written up in the text box up top here. Okay? So that first pattern starts on fret 10. And then let's go ahead and walk through that for a sec. Let me just read the comments as they're pumping in here. Truchas, sorry if hopefully I'm saying that right. Hope to join you soon. Having trouble getting the video to load. Okay. All right. Maybe a slow internet connection. Okay. Oh, cool. Second Chance Band. Next gig is Saturday night. Right on. Awesome. I actually landed myself in a rock and roll blues band out here in Phoenix area, everybody. And I've, between now and the end of the year, we've got already like 9 gigs lined up. Probably not as many as the Second Chance Band's playing, but I just joined them. So I'm just, they've already established little group. They're called West of the Blues. If you want to check it out, I think their website's westoftheblues.com. But I'm really new in the band, so I'm not in their band photos yet, but I'm definitely playing with them. So it's a fun little band. So anyway, back to the ranch here, everybody. Let's get the show on the road here. Pattern, the first pattern on that neck diagram, everybody, it starts on the 6th string, 10th fret, and then what we're going to do is walk up one note at a time. So the frets are 10, 12, 13 on your 6th string, 10, 12 on the 5th string, 9, 10, 12. So you're going to move your hand back a fret and play 9, 10, 12 on the 4th string and the 3rd. Then on the 2nd and 1st string, we're going to move back up a fret, play frets 10, 12, 13. And a good way to figure this, everybody, is 1 finger per fret. And when you get to strings 4 and 3, you just shift everything back a fret. And when you finally get back to strings 2 and 1, you move up a fret or to the right. So watch my fingers when I play this. Then I shift back. Then I shift up. And then get used to doing it backwards. And what's neat about this pattern is the top 2 strings have their unique shape. It's fingers, index, ring, and pinky, or 1, 3, 4. And if we're going down, to go pinky, ring, index. Then on the 3rd string and 4th, we shift back a fret and use pinky, middle, index, or 4, 2, 1 on frets 12, 10, and 9. Okay, same shape on both strings. That's kind of neat thing about this pattern is the top 2 strings have their unique shape. Then strings 3 and 4 have their unique shape. Okay, and then on the 5th and 6th string, we play 2 notes on the 5th string, and then the 6th string. When we're doing the cage patterns, everybody, I'm not going to talk too much about those, but if you're already familiar with them, you know that any notes you play on the 6th string in a cage pattern scale will be the same exact fingers and notes 2 octaves higher on the high E string. So notice that the 6th string in the the diagram, is the same exact frets as the high string. And if you know your guitar strings, the name of the strings, you got a low E, you got a high E, which is actually 2 octaves higher than the low E. So any notes on the 6th are the same on the 1st. Backwards. 6. They're 2 octaves apart. So once you get the shape under your fingers, get comfortable with it going up and down. And if you want to get good at doing this Dorian mode, you've got to memorize the pattern. So if you can't play the scale up and down without looking at it, if you got to look at your diagram or some other reference, then you don't have it down yet. We got to have it memorized. Next step, ladies and gentlemen, is to understand what the note names are and what they're called. You know what? Yes. All right. So everything we're going to do here is still in the key of C major, but the Dorian mode starts on the 2nd note in the C major scale. The one we did last week was C Ionian. It was here. Okay. The 2nd note in that pattern, C, is a D. Okay. That's another thing too. If you don't know your notes on the fretboard, probably want to get familiar with them because this will help you understand the modes. I know it's daunting. There's a lot of stuff in music we can learn, but what I'm talking about here, everybody, is not that much complicated. To know your notes on the fretboard, it's not that big of a deal. You just got to work it and figure them out over time. You'll get it. If you know that the 8th fret is C, then just take your time figuring out. The next one will be C sharp, and then the next one, the 10th fret, would be D. That's the second note of the scale we're looking for. And then what we're going to do is play the notes of the C major scale we learned last week, or C Ionian, but we're going to focus on D as being the resolving note, the root note. But we're still playing the same notes. This is where the modes start to have their own unique characteristic, because just because we're playing the same notes doesn't mean it's going to sound correct all the time. You got to change. What we're doing is changing the focus of the root note. So instead of it being C, we're focusing on D. Remember the notes in C major last week, a little review, was it's no sharps or flats with the letters, with the alphabet named notes. It's C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. No sharps or flats. For D Dorian, we're going to play the exact same notes, but start with D and go D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. And that goes with, if you skip, we're going to put the 3-string version on the back burner for a sec. We're just going to look at pattern, the first one up here. Okay. And then down here is the chord that would go with that pattern. The D Dorian goes with the D minor chord. D minor is the second chord in the key of C. And if some of this is over your head and you want to find out more about this, search scale theory, chord theory on Guitar Tricks, if you're a member of Guitar Tricks. And we've got a lot of lessons, a lot of pre-recorded video lessons, tutorials that can help you understand this stuff a little bit more. Okay. If you want to be getting good at your instrument, you're going to need to step it up and go beyond just being a robot and playing songs and parts of songs and solos. If you have no idea what notes you're playing, what chords you're playing, other than you just know how to parrot it and play the notes exactly, that's fine if that's all you want to do. But if you really want to lift your musicianship up, your guitar playing, you got to start to try to figure out what the notes are on your fretboard. And that's not that hard. It's not like we're going deep in theory. All we're trying to do, it's like playing piano. You want to know what the notes are you're playing, not just play the keys, whatever key it's supposed to be. Okay. So we've already established that these notes now are the same as C major, but starting on D. D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. E, F, G, A, B, C, D again. Now, if I focus on D as being the root and I play that D minor bar chord right here at the bottom of the page, you notice a couple things. All the notes in the D minor bar chord are in that scale that we just played, or I just played. Okay? Those notes are the really good notes to land on now that we focused on D minor as being the root chord or the tonic. And the notes are the root, the fifth, the root again, the minor third, the fifth, and the root. And what's a little bit neat, folks, if you want to go a little extra step, is try to find those same 3 notes, the root, the third, and the fifth, all within this pattern. And if you do that, see inside the pattern, I know this is a black and white with, I added green dots because my red ink ran out. But you folks, when you open up the PDF, you're going to see it's a yellow neck diagram with a few red dots and then mostly black dots. The red dots are the root note of the key we're in, the mode we're in. And Second Chance Band, appreciate it. Yeah, if you're out in Phoenix, you can reach out to me and I'll let you know if we got any gigs coming up that you can check out. Maybe we'll even have you sit in. Okay, cool. All right. And Leslie's saying, I'm watching this on an iPad, so I can't look at the scales at this. Hey, no worries, Leslie. Just if you want to sit and absorb it, and you can print them out later on. Or Leslie, it might be good to, if you know we're doing this, next week we're going to be doing this again, print these out now. And then next Wednesday, we're still going to work with Dorian next week. We're going to focus on the second page, but I am going to go over the first page again. So do yourself a favor, Leslie, and print these out ahead of time so you can follow along. That might help increase the educational aspect of this whole thing. There you go. And a bang. Hello. Nice for the wave. Okay. So if you were to play just the root, third, and fifth. How do you know what the root, third, and fifth is? Well, inside the dots, the red dots on your diagram have a little R. I've got them green right here because my red ink ran out. And then look at all the other dots. The black dots have numbers. The next one says 2, and it's got a triangle in front of it. The triangle just means major, so it's a major second. For right now, don't worry about that. Just know that it's the second degree in the scale. The next dot, it has a flat third, it looks like a lowercase b, and then the number 3. That means that the third degree is flatted from what it would have been if we were playing the Ionian or the major scale. So that's one of the big differences right off the top. In Dorian, what makes one of the notes that makes it sound neat, there's a few notes that make it sound different, is the third degree is flatted. Okay, that's going to give you the minor sound because the third degree in a scale or a chord determines whether it's a major scale or chord or a minor scale. A minor scale or chord. Okay, so if we play the root, then the third, and then play the fifth. The fifth has a P in front of it. The P just stands for perfect. It's a perfect interval. There's no major or minor quality to the fifth. You won't hear of a minor fifth or a major fifth. It's either a fifth. Sometimes we might hear of a flat 5. That's a blues note. Don't worry about that for right now. Same with the 4. The 4 also has a P in front of it. You won't hear of a major or minor 4. It'll just be a 4. Sometimes you might hear of a sharp 4, which is the same as the flat 5, but don't worry about that. Just look at the dots we have and basically play this. Play the root, third, and fifth, and then you'll play the root again, an octave higher, and then the third is over here on the 3rd string 10th fret. Then the fifth is on top of that on the 2nd string 10th fret, and then the root again up on the 10th fret 1st string, and then you can reach up with your pinky and play the flat third on the 13th fret 1st string. So that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is a D minor arpeggio. If you go, and those notes are really good when you're playing this mode over a backing track. Those notes are the chord tones of the key we're in. So they're going to sound really good almost all the time. The other notes in the scale sound really good too, but sometimes they don't sound as good as the chord tone notes. So that's another aspect too. Just because we know our scale doesn't mean every note's going to sound like, miraculous and beautiful every time. No, the ones that sound beautiful all the time are the chord tones. The other notes just give you a little bit of tension, a little bit of color, a little bit of release against the chord. Okay, so that's one thing to think about. Okay, now look through that diagram too. One more thing that makes the scale unique is, remember last week on the Ionian, all the notes were just C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, no sharps or flats. And then the numbers we had in the little circles were root 2, major 2, major 3, 4, 5, major 6, major 7, and then the root. But here, the difference is it has a flat third in Dorian. The 4 and the 5 are the same as major. The 6 is the same as major. And then look at the 7. The 7 has a little flat sign in front of that too. So the 3rd degree and the 7th degree are what are different in the Dorian. So the Dorian goes 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, root. Now, if I just compared that to the D major scale or play D Ionian, you're going to hear the major third. Hear that? That's your major third. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the 7 is major 2. Major third, major 7. If I play Dorian, listen how it sounds a little more dark. And you hear how it works with that chord? If you play Dorian over a major chord, it wouldn't sound right. It has the F sharp in it. That would conflict against the F note. All right, it wouldn't sound too good because you'd hear an F sharp in the chord and then you would be playing an F. Those two notes together don't sound that good. That's what an F and an F sharp together sound like. So it's real important to play the right scale patterns. All right, so let's take a break and read the comments again. Leslie's saying, wait, all right, let me back up even further. True Chat's saying link to the PDF. It's right, open up the underneath your video, YouTube video you're watching with me right now. Just open up the text box under it or expand it, and then you'll see a blue link for the curriculum. And that's where you get it. There you go. Okay, Leslie's saying I ordered a scales book so I could do that. It will be here tomorrow. Sweet. You could do that too, Leslie. Now, I'm not sure if the scales book will be doing D Dorian. It might be doing G Dorian or C Dorian, but we'll talk about that. Maybe next week, if you get the book, it looks like you're going to get it tomorrow. So maybe next Wednesday, you can we can comment. I talk to you about that over the lesson here. Russ saying, thanks for repeating this, sinking into my brain incrementally. Good. And Steve in New Hampshire saying, so a C Dorian would be the same shape, but starting on the 8th fret, starting on the second tone of A Ionian. Well, actually, Steve, you're half right. All right, and then half not right. C Dorian would be exactly the same shape we're doing here for Dorian, D Dorian, but you're right, absolutely right. You can move these patterns to any other key too. If you want to do C Dorian, like, sorry, I'm forgetting the name. Steve is just saying, I'm going to play the pattern that we just did, which for D Dorian, I'll start on the D note on the 10th fret, 6th string. That's real important to know your notes on the fretboard, folks, especially if you're trying to play in a different key. You got to find where that root note is of the new key on the 6th string. So Steve already knows the C note, if he's going to play in C Dorian, is on the 8th fret, 6th string. So I'll play the exact same pattern. And play the C minor chord. You can hear how it rocks. Definitely dark sound. Okay, definitely has a minor sound to my ears. And what I'm encouraging everyone to do too is listen to the sound of the notes and what they sound like against the chord. Find a backing track in Dorian and play the scale over it. And you've got to go beyond, I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but you got to go beyond just trying to look at your fingers and make sure you're playing the right frets, but try to use these guys, the ears, because that's all we're doing, folks. Music, you can't touch it. You can't see it. I know we can see this, but your listener doesn't understand all this and, how to read music and tablature. They don't know that. All they know is what they hear. And we need to pay attention to what we're playing because we got to make sure we're bending in tune. We got to make sure we're in tune, right? You got to make sure you listen to how some of the notes sound over some of the chords. Some of them will sound really good if you're paying attention. Some of them won't. But try to listen to what you're doing. That's really important with the modes, is try to listen to what those subtle differences are. Okay? Real important there. All right, let me keep going with the comments real quick. All right, yeah, Steve, so you said that. You're absolutely correct. So C Dorian would be played on the 8th fret. Now, the second thing you said in parentheses, starting on the 2 of the A Ionian. Well, actually, Steve, the 2 of A Ionian, A would be here. The 2 is B. So what we would, if we're in A major, the second chord and the second note would be a B or a B minor. So you'd have to play B Dorian. B Dorian has the exact same notes as A Ionian or A major, but starting on the 2nd degree. Steve, what would it be if you were playing C Dorian? What's the parent major scale that's derived from? In other words, what major scale has C as the 2nd note? Okay, it would just be a whole step lower. Okay, what is that 6th fret on your 6th string, Steve? Is B flat. So when you play C Dorian, you're playing notes of the B flat major scale, but we're focusing on C as being the root of it. Okay, Steve, hopefully that cleared it up. Zach's Lee saying, which cage number? Well, Zach, we're not really doing caged here, like one of the other comments came up earlier, but this first pattern, if you're doing the cage, there's only 5 patterns in cage, right? 5, okay. So holding the pick there. This is one of the patterns. This is the D. If you know your cage pattern, this is the D form. But I would not, don't confuse the cage with the modes, because look at this. When we go down and do the same exact scale, but organize 3 notes per string, this is not the cage system, but it's the same notes. So the cage system is a way of getting the 5 patterns down, but when we're doing the modes, you got to kind of hopefully you already have those 5 patterns down, because if you don't, the modes will be more confusing to you. So, yep. So it's the D form cage pattern, Zach, hopefully that answers your question. All right, cool, Leslie, cool. And then Truchas, cool. So Roland's saying low E 13th fret is C. How is this a flat? Roland, the low E 13th fret is F. Okay, maybe you typed the wrong something in there, but it's F, not C. Okay? And then it's not flat because it's F. So maybe double check what you asked, Roland, and just make sure you're right. I meant F. Yes. Yeah, well then if 13th fret is F, Roland, so it's not flat or sharp. It's 13th fret is F all day long on every guitar, unless we're tuned differently. But I'm standard tuning. Everybody else, we're just, to keep it simple, we're not doing any different tunings, just standard E, A, D, G, B, E tuning on low to high. Okay? Oh, themes here. All right. Oh, all right. I got you. The flat third. Well, what it is, Roland, is when we're doing the Dorian, if we're comparing the shape of the Dorian to the shape of the major scale of the same key, D Dorian and D major, if you laid them over top of each other, you'd see that the Dorian, on the 3 note per string one, we would go press 10, 12, 14. That's your F sharp. That's D Ionian. But if we play D Dorian, the formula for that has a flat third. Hear the darker sound of that flat third, Roland? That's what we're getting at. So let me talk about this. Up in our text box on the curriculum page here, everybody. Let's read the top part. Let me read that. It says Dorian is the second mode. Starts on the second degree. In other words, the second note of the major scale. Whatever major scale you're doing, the second degree is the launch point or the root note for Dorian if you want to go down the Dorian road. Numerically, the scale notes are, it says 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. I use a lowercase b to represent that little flat symbol in music. Okay. That, if you're thinking about the major scale numerically, the major scale is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. If we start changing some of those notes, that's where the alterations come in to make that new scale or that new mode sound different. And we want to see how it's different. So if you look back on last week, Roland, if you look at the sheet we had, I got it convenient right here. Okay. The formula for the numeric formula for the Ionian or the major scale is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So when we deal with the number aspect of the scales and modes, we don't have to worry about letters. And no matter which major scale we do, whether it's B flat that has a couple flats, or we're doing a F sharp, which has a ton of sharps in it, numerically, F sharp major and B flat major, they both numerically are just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They use the same shape. That's F sharp major. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then B flat major, I just start on B flat and play the same shape. Now, numerically, the numbers are the same. That's what makes, if thinking about your scales and modes with the numbers numerically, it helps us understand the difference between them. So numerically now, Dorian is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. So we want to see the difference. It's going to take a little bit of practice, but you'll see and hear the difference if you do that. So that's what the flat third is, Roland. Okay. And then let's talk about the second sentence. Second paragraph says the notes of the parent chord, D minor, are the root note, flat third, and fifth. I already went over that earlier tonight. Yeah, you're welcome, Roland. Cool. The notes are, alpha notes are D, F, and A. D, F, A. Those are the gold notes to focus on, while the other scale tones add colors. I mentioned that earlier too. This mode has an overall minor tonality. So the third degree in the scale determines whether it's a minor scale, sounding scale, or major. And then we go from there. So if the scale has a flat third, then the chord, the parent chord or the root chord of that, will also need to have a flat third. That's why we've got a D minor. That's the second chord in the key of C. That's the chord we're going to build the Dorian off. Okay. Now, D Dorian, last sentence, everybody. D Dorian can be played over this chord change, among others too. A very common one, I'll give you a few examples, everybody. Just going D minor to a G major chord. So this is a Dorian sounding rhythm. Okay, you can jazz that up if you want. And that works if we play it down on the third fret, do G minor. Instead of doing D minor to G, G is right underneath playing the A4 bar chord. If I do it on G minor, and then under that would be the C chord. Okay. Santana song. You gotta change your evil ways, baby. Right? Santana. I think that's one of the songs we teach on Guitar Tricks. Okay, you can hear it has a minor sound to it. Okay, another Dorian sounding song and chord progression, same thing. I'll do it up off of A minor, A to D major. That's an A Dorian scale. You would play over that. Another Santana song, Oi Como Va. Then okay, all those notes Santana does. It doesn't have to be all these billion notes. You just got to make it sound good. He comes up with tasty little licks and melodies out of that Dorian scale. All those notes are in A Dorian. What's another one? You know what's that song from the Classics 4? It's called Spooky. It's an old song. I think from the late 60s, early 70s. Atlanta Rhythm Section did a version of it. But that's it's going E minor to A7. If you do it up in your bar chords at the 12th fret, it's an E minor to an A major or A7. That's E minor Dorian. And then the E Dorian pattern. What's another one? How about Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall? Okay, anyway, that's the idea. Those are all Dorian structured songs. There's a ton of them. I'm sure if you search on YouTube, you can find a lot of Dorian sounding tunes. All right. Just wetting the palate. Hang on. Okay, so let's get down to the next pattern on the sheet here, everybody. This is the same exact notes, but arranged 3 notes per string. This is another great way to play any of your scales, is arranging the notes 3 notes per string. The cage pattern way, I love using this when I'm doing more bluesy stuff, because check this out. This is something kind of neat here. The minor pentatonic scale exists in each mode. Well, actually, I'm sorry. A pentatonic scale exists in each mode. There's 3 major sounding modes, and the major pentatonic works in all 3 of those. And there's 3 minor sounding modes where the minor pentatonic scale works in. Okay, I don't want to go too much over people's head, but the D Dorian, look right here. If you look at your D minor pentatonic, oh, whoa, all the D minor pentatonic notes are right there, except the Dorian just adds those 2 that are on the 9th fret, and it adds that 1 extra one on the 12th fret 6th string, and then 12th fret on the 2nd and 1st. So just, this is kind of cool, folks. So if you play D pentatonic, okay, you can do that, but your extra colored notes would be, you know, that extra note sounds that's not your pentatonic, but it's in the Dorian. I always think that sounds kind of neat to come back to that. And then resolve to the root. Or just kind of putting around the scale. Just trying different ideas over it. So if you already know your pentatonic scale real good, think of this Dorian pattern as you're adding just a few extra notes. These 2. So you can slide back to that 9 on the 3rd string. You can slide back to the 9 on the 4th string. Okay, some neat extra things to chew on. When we do, well, also the C major that we did last week, the C Ionian, right? If you know your C major pentatonic, that exists in the first pattern we did last week. Okay, I don't want to get too much off track on that, but just chew on that for a little while. And as each new mode comes up that we study, I'll mention to you about which pentatonic goes with it. Okay? Cool. And then Russ saying, great examples to solidify understanding this thing. Oh, you're welcome, Russ. Yeah, I'm going to try to find a few good examples for each mode as we're doing it. And I'll definitely play you some stuff too. But that way you can get a sound of it, because we want to not just play it like a robot to scale up and down, but you want to hear it and you want to kind of feel it, and you want to understand what are those other notes that make it sound cool, what makes it sound unique. And Zach Lee saying, did you say E minor Dorian? Well, we're doing D Dorian right here, Zach, but when I was doing that song from the Classics 4, Spooky, okay, that tune is in E Dorian. But we're not doing that today. We're doing on the sheet here, we're doing D Dorian. So it's the same pattern. E Dorian would be at the 12th fret, playing that first pattern on our diagram. It's also good when you're done playing your scale, folks, to play the root notes, because those are really good notes to end on. Okay, there you go. That was E Dorian, Zach. D Dorian, what we're doing today is the same thing, starting on the 10th fret. Good to play the roots, and then even the chord, the parent chord that goes with it, because it gives you a sense of resolve. Okay, now organizing the notes, 3 notes per string, gives you a whole different layout of the scale. Notice that this does not really give us access to that fun, comfortable minor pentatonic scale that most of us already know. Okay, but here's the benefits. When I'm playing more bluesy stuff or pentatonic-y, I think of this pattern, because then I can go between pentatonic and this. I can add those extra flavors. But sometimes we want to play 3 notes per string because it's easier on the picking hand, and every string has 3 notes. So your picking doesn't get hung up on that one string with just 2 notes. Every string has 3. So why do you think guitar players like Randy Rhoads, Van Halen, all of them, Paul Gilbert, the ones, the really good players, no, I'm not talking blues players, because they don't do the 3 note per string, or if they do, it's very, very rare. But we're talking more of the hard rock players, the classic rock stuff, some of that, some of the shreddy players, they use 3 notes per string. John Petrucci, it's all over the internet. And there's a lot of benefits to this. One of them is that when you pick, every 2 strings, your picking will be the same. See, if you're alternate pick, and this is real important too, is get your picking hand down. If you're not alternate picking these scales, you're probably not even aware of how you're picking it. And that could be one of the reasons why you might have some issues getting faster or playing cleanly, or you're hitting the wrong strings. Okay, we got to work with alternate picking everything. So on this pattern, if we go down, up, down on the 6th string, that means the next string will be up, down, up. Okay, now that 2-string pattern that I just played establishes our picking on every next 2 string sets. So the middle 2 strings would also go down, up, down, up, down, up. And then the top 2 strings, down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay? Down, up, down, up, down, up. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay, now let's talk about what those notes are and the fingering for it. Okay, you can start with fingers 1, 2, 3 if you like on the 6th string. That's what I do. If I'm launching up the scale real quick, because then the next string I do fingers 1, 2, 4 on frets 10, 12, 14. And then in fact, the next 3 strings 5, 4, and 3 are the same frets. 10, 12, 14, 10, 12, 14, 10, 12, 14. Then on the top 2 strings, I got to jump up 2 frets to the 12th on the 2nd string. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay, or frets are 12, 13, 15, 12, 13, 15. And then try it backwards. Now, that's one way to play it. I know some of the economy pickers or the sweep pickers might want to do that scale using the economy picking, where you go down, up, down, down, up, down. Okay, you could do that, but for me, that's kind of limiting, because all I can do is go up the scale or down the scale doing that, where I go down, up, down, 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 down, up, down. And then going back down the scale, I go up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay, for doing that, that's cool. But most of the time when I'm playing, I'm not doing the scales up and down. All right, I might be doing a lick like lick like that. I couldn't do that if I was doing that economy picking, or maybe going or okay, all those ideas, I'm just alternate picking, and I'm just swinging my pick back and forth. It, for me, this is my personal opinion, but there's plenty of guys and ladies out there that will prove me wrong. But this is just me personally. And folks, what I'm talking about isn't the only way to pick it. It's just my preference. There's a lot of other good ways to pick this stuff too. But I'm definitely helping you out by saying get that alternate picking down, because that's like your basic, learning to walk. No one's going to be able to run if they can't walk. So just playing guitar with alternate picking is the most fundamental, common way to move. And it's just very natural in your hand just to go back and forth. See, for me, with the economy picking thing, going down, up, down, as soon as I go double down, I broke my momentum of the back and forth, where I'm going down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. Okay? I like when my pick doesn't have that little hiccup, but I can just go. Or yeah. Kind of messy at the end, but you get the idea. And I'm just doing this with my pick. That's, for me, that's helps me to, if I want to pick something real quick, to do that kind of stuff. But I definitely use the economy picking when I'm doing little arpeggios. Okay, but that's another, that doing arpeggios, absolutely. It's way easier to do them fast with the sweep picking. Okay. But I would definitely say just try to get your alternate picking happen. There's two things I notice with a lot of people I help with guitar, my students. One is that not many of them know their notes on the fretboard, or if they do, it's very sparse. And then a lot of them are also not alternate picking. They're not really even sure what they're doing with their picking hand. But those two things, folks, would help you immensely, just to focus on getting your right hand to alternate when you're playing the scales and soloing. Okay, so let's talk about that pattern. If you look at the notes, everybody, what's nice about 3-note per string is, like I already talked about, the picking is generally a little more consistent, because when you do the cage patterns, every pattern has a lot of strings with 3 notes, but there's always one string that has 2 notes. In fact, there's one of the cage patterns, I won't say which one, but one of them has 2 strings with just 2 notes. So that really kind of throws your picking. You're getting along going 3 notes on every string, and all of a sudden there's one with 2. But that has good applications as well. With the 3 notes per string, folks, you can do the speed picking like I just demonstrated. You can also do a lot of legato stuff like Randy Rhoads and Van Halen do, where they don't necessarily pick every note. They might, let me just put a little more overdrive on this. Okay, Randy Rhoads would probably pick the first note, then hammer on the next 2. Okay. That's a super fast way to play the pattern. And then pull off going down. Okay, familiar with Crazy Train, the ending lick after he goes that last run he does is legato. There's a lot, and Mr. Crowley, I think he does something like that, but way back here. Okay, you can get a lot of speed out of those licks too. Another thing you can do too, if you're in the tapping, you can make up a little note, a little tap lick on the first string, like, and just move it across the scale. See, you can do it without flicking the toggle switch. Or okay, you can get a lot of speed out of it, but not all of us are wanting to play that fast, and that's no biggie. I love playing slower stuff that's just tasty and follows the chord changes. Like, just for instance here, folks, let me do this here. Just real quick, I'm going to do a short little improv over a backing track. The backing track is just playing a D minor 7. Okay, in fact, it's playing the two chords I got up here, D minor to G, okay, and then just a G major. Okay, you listen to it for a sec, get the groove in, try to put that close to the... Get an idea going. Okay, you can see how I'm just going over it. I don't know if you can hear the backing track too good, but it's the best I can do with trying to get a backing track going. But I'm just trying to follow the two chords and then playing notes within the scale. Now, granted, folks, I was going all over the fretboard because these notes are all over the fretboard. So there's other patterns up and down. You want to at least start with those, though. Okay. That's a good place to start. Now, we've compared everything so far to the major scale with the number of degrees. Think about that for a little bit. You got 2 new patterns to work on. What we're going to do next, like we did on week 2 of the Ionian, is we're going to use an open second string and then play the B Dorian scale. And the reason why I'm using an open second string is that I want to have a drone. And this will be kind of like a sitar type of situation where we're going to build the scale on one string. So we're not caught up with trying to play scale notes and using your fingers and alternate picking, but we can focus on the notes themselves and then going in terms of whole steps and half steps. Because the other side of the fence here, everybody, is knowing, not just knowing the numeric names, like a Dorian is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1 again. Okay. Think about this. Remember, the major scale is built on whole steps and half steps, and all the modes are built on whole steps and half steps. So, like last week, we learned that the Ionian mode, if you start from the root note, and it goes whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. It's 2 whole steps and a half step, then 3 whole steps and a half step. So if you do that on your first string, okay, and we did it in the key of B. So you start with the B note on the first string, 7th fret. A whole step is 2 frets on your guitar. A half step is 1 fret. So if we start from the first note and go up a whole step, then another whole step, then a half step, then a whole, and then we're back to the half. See, that sounds like a major scale. It doesn't. We're just going to do it with one finger. Okay, backwards. So you got to also see in here the interval shapes with whole steps and half steps. So Dorian, though, everybody, has a flat third and a flat 7. So I'm going to try to, those notes we just played numerically are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So what I want to do now is do a flat third and a flat 7. 1, 2, hear the flat third. 4, 5, 6, flat 7. Hear that? That's a little different. Now, what I'm doing is also, next week, we're going to talk about this by adding the second string open. Gotta be in tune. Let me just double check that. And let me clean up the dirt here for a sec. Let me shut that off. Just a little bit of the dirt. It's got a little bit overdrive, but not much. Okay. So listen how it sounds with the second string ringing open. You can really hear the quality of the scale. With major, see that open B string is your same note that I'm playing at the first and end. Now if we compare that to the Dorian, listen to this. Hear that minor third? That's one of the big changes in Dorian. Hear that flat 7? Okay, you want to try to hear those notes. That's why I'm doing this next week. And what we did last week for Ionian, we're just doing it on one string with one finger. You could use a couple fingers if you want, but the idea is don't get hung up with the notes. I mean, you got to play the notes, play them accurately, but I want you to listen how they sound against the, pretend that note is the B minor chord. Hear that? That's your minor third. There's your flat 7. And then do it backwards. Okay, it gives you a really good idea about the color sound. So I'm trying to present the modes in a few different ways to help us understand it. Now keep in mind, folks, too, see the title of my class here? It says Modes for Beginners. So I don't want to go too deep into all this. I just want to kind of let everyone wet your toes in the mode water, stick your toes in and just get a familiarity with it. And as you go through these with me, you might hear 1 or 2 of the modes that you like the sound of. Well, then work with those for a while and try to understand them and use them. Okay. That's what I'm trying to do, is just as the weeks progress, we're going to do two modes one mode every 2 weeks. So we're going to do next week again on Dorian, and we're going to go a little deeper into it. Okay. So let me just read the comments here, because I'm about ready to wrap it up. All right. Truchas is saying, this is my town. Yay, you pronounced it correctly. All right. Trushut. All right. Cool. All right, Trish. Yep. You're very welcome. Glad you liked it. And Leslie's saying, I'm 7-year-old and haven't played guitar in 50 years, so I don't even know why I'm trying to learn this stuff, but I do find it quite interesting. LOL. Hey, Leslie, man, you're never too old. It's just enjoy the ride, Leslie. Playing guitar is fun, and it gets easier and it gets more fun as we get better. So just try, stick with it, Leslie. And you might not get all of it. Don't worry about it. I'm sure most of the other students aren't capturing everything I'm showing you. But if I just, if you get a little bit, that's what my job is. Also, too, Leslie, I do give one-on-one lessons. And are you a Guitar Tricks member? Because you can always reach out to me through there to book a lesson with me. I can help you take a listen to what you've already can play a little bit, and I can immediately assess like what you're working on and what you need to work on. We can talk about that in a one-on-one internet lesson. All right, Trushas. All right, cool. There you go. And Russ, like the single string demo. All right, we're going to do more of that next week. And every new mode we do, we're going to also learn it that way too. Oh, cool, Steve. Glad it's starting to click. Well, yeah, just baby steps. And man, when I was going to music school at MI, Musicians Institute in Hollywood, California, back in '85, there were some of the classes were on the modes, and so many of the students just didn't get them. So we were all in the music school, guitar school together, and a lot of the students still didn't get it then. And they were great players. So the modes are a little, you got to really understand a certain amount of music, but I'm just trying to wet everyone's whistle with this and just absorb what you can. And you don't have to be having these down perfect to be a good player. Just learn as you go. Okay, cool. King 50, I could hear bus stop by the Hollies doing that. Yeah, exactly. That might even be another one, King 50. Yep. And then let's see, and I can download these PDFs, but I can't print them out. And I don't know how much room I have on my iPad if I don't want it to crash. Well, figure it out there. And then Danny's saying, I've been working on minor pentatonic Guitar Tricks. Enjoy the modes. Cool. Appreciate it. Danny, you have a good week too. Terry, all right, cool. Appreciate it. Roland. Yep, Roland. And Roland, I sent you an email about tomorrow. So check your emails. Our lesson tomorrow. I'm going to pop on right now, and I might check my emails again. So I was asking you about something with the lesson tomorrow. Second Chance Band. Cool. All right. You're very welcome, Marianne. Zach. All right. Cool. Zane. Another great lesson. See you next week. Cool. All right. Richard. Cool. Got it. All right. Wow. Everyone's admitting their age. All right. So I'm just a little bit younger than you folks out there. All right. You're welcome, Richard. Cool. And then King 50. Cool. All right. Alonzo, right on. All right, Roland, you saw it. Cool. I'll check and then I'll get back with you. All right, everybody, have a great night. See you next Wednesday. And a couple students I got that are here, I'll see you this week or next week early for your lessons. Peace. All right. Keep practicing. Keep those fingers flying, man. That's how you're going to get better. Keep practicing. All right. See ya. Bye.